This is Barracuda Buzz coming at you with another episode of Buzz's Garage! We're gonna go over right now, from beginning to end, building a 340 small block Mopar. We got a 1972 block and bored over 40 over. We are just prepping and cleaning up the block right now and getting ready to start installing the crank, bearings, and rods. Gee! So of course, everything wiped down with acetone, so there's no grit or grime or anything like that left. So when we slide these bearings on, everything's clean. We gotta wipe up some stuff, and I'll show you, of course, how I'm doing it. All right, on this, along with any other engine, you're going to have notches. You can see that notch there on the bearing. All right, bearing cap. Now, on the block itself, what you'll do is you'll match that, and we just match that and cover it from one end, and just push down on that, just like that, until it's flush on both sides. Of course, on our number 3 bearing, we have the thrust bearing, okay? So this thrust plating on the sides for the crank moving back and forth, it goes in the same way, okay? You're gonna push it in between there, but you got the sides that have to be mated as well. You push down on this, just like that, just like any other bearing. We have lubed now all the bearing surfaces. We will also make sure that our thrust bearing has lube on the sides. Now with the bearings lubricated and set and the rear main seal in, we will put the rear main seal in the bearing cap on that seal. This open end, as if you can see, goes towards the inside of the engine. So this goes on the cap itself. And then what we'll do is we'll place caulking, or a silicone, a dab on each side here, and of course, where the mating surface is, and that'll seal that. We put a little bit of lubricant on just the inside, not close to where we got to put the silicone at, but we put it there so the crank has a little bit of lubricant to ride on for initial startup. Now, we set the crank in very carefully. And with that, we'll put on the main bearing caps, which are numbered. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, the thrust bearing, number 4, and then of course we have the rear main. I'll show you on the rear main. You can see how the rear main seal is on there. We'll put a dab on here, and here, here, and here. Set that in place. A little bit of assembly lube on that neoprene on the seal here, and just to lube it up a little, but not close to where the mating surface is going to be for the silicone. Carefully set that in. Carefully light up these caps, and we'll just tap them down very gently. So what we'll do is them threads, and then a little bit underneath the head itself. We'll get our wrench and we will get this down, and you'll move on with the rest of the main bearing cap bolts, remembering that the 2 and the 4s are for the windage tray, so they have the hole in it. Gee! Now, starting with the rear main, we will tighten all these up to 30 foot-pounds. That's it. Except that thrust bearing. And we will set that thrust bearing now by prying back and forth. That thrust bearing is the number 3. Now with the dead blow hammer, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tap this once forward and then once back. Get our pry bar here. Pry, test in here. We got about 4 thousandths, 5 thousandths of an inch on the thrust bearing. So we will continue to torque these in 10 pound increments up to 90 foot-pounds. Now once all torqued, this crank should move freely by hand, and that it does. And also I'll just mark with the little yellow, and as you can see I just marked the top of the bolt with a yellow marker just to show that, remind me that that's torqued to spec. Here we have a little diagram of the compression rings and how they go. Of course, facing the front of the piston, we're going to start with the number 1 piston. We got our top compression ring is straight up at 12 o'clock. Our second compression ring is at 6. Then our bottom oil rail opening is at 8 o'clock, and the top rail opening is at 4 o'clock. And the oil expander, center of that, is of course in the top there. And alright, so with the pistons here, we'll have this marked down, but this is the number 7, and that's pointed forward towards the front of the engine. The valve reliefs always go on the top part of the motor anyways. The oil ring gaps, we got one oil ring, the top oil ring right there on this side, and then the bottom one on this side. The compression ring, the bottom compression ring we have facing down, the gap, and this top one we have facing up. So now what we'll do is we'll oil this up, put oil in for the initial startup, and then we'll oil some of these rings. I push them up and just get a little oil in there. And then what I'll do is I'll rub that around. I'll move these rings back and forth. So bottom one, 2, oil 1. So it's got that. So now with that, it's all looped up. Correct? So we'll now put it in the ring compressor.
Yeah, put it in the hole.
Yes.
Stick it in the hole.
Now we'll stick that in there and we'll crank this so that it compresses the rings. And we'll pull this up a little bit so the skirt's out a little bit so we can stick it in the bore. And we'll go in smoother. Okay, so that's torqued. Next thing is you want to remember to get this before you put it in and lube that up with the bearing lube. Now the bores are all oiled inside. This is the number 7 piston. We got the bolt. These are protectors, so it doesn't hit the crank journal when we're installing it. And we'll stick the skirts in there with the plastic mallet. I'm going to start pushing down, and after it gets so much down, we want to make sure everything's torqued. So we'll continue once it's flowing. Oop. Okay, so now perfect example. You see the ring, top ring popped out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fix that. Alright, we're gonna start this one over. So I'll have this out, do this again. This is the first time this has happened to me, so we'll make sure that we have this lined up there. Tighten this in the compressor again. Stick this in the bore. Okay, that's torqued.
Is that making?
Yeah, that's actually down. Make sure it's flush to the deck, and pop right through. Now I'll flip the engine over, which is easiest to do this side. Now with this mallet, what I'll do is I will just tap this until it seats inside that on the journal, and we will pull these off, and then we'll make sure that we have this lined up with the same the notch goes on the same rod that has a notch on. And we'll just tap that on. And then of course with the ARP bolts that these are, you want to put a little lube on the bolts too. The crank bolts, we actually used oil. And then we could put these nuts on. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll go with 20 foot-pound. We'll just get these cranked. There. We'll go up 10 to 30. Then we'll go up 10 to 40. And while we're on there, then we'll go up 10 more to 50, and that's where these are supposed to be tightened at. Hear that click, and that means you're there. So that's it. And of course, you can see where it's marked. I mark it with an X when I am done torquing, so I know that them are set. Okay, the end play with this one is tolerable this time, not like the last time. 17 thousandths. We're at 17 thousandths of an inch on between our piston rod clearance. And the other ones, these other two is like 16 thousandths, and this one's 16 thousandths. This one's actually even tighter. It's like 10 thousandths. So we're actually doing pretty good. So now this is done, finally, after all these weeks and weeks of waiting because they f***ed up!